This is Performance Insight with Dr. Abiola Salami.
Hi, this is Dr. Abiola Salami, the world-class performance strategist. This week on Performance Insight podcast, we'll be looking at how to recalibrate when empowerment becomes entitlement and advocacy becomes arrogance.
You are listening to Performance Insight with Dr. Abiola Salami, the world-class performance strategist, a platform curated to build models of excellence in the African marketplace.
Over the past 2 decades, the professional world has witnessed a powerful surge in self-advocacy. Movements championing women's leadership, minority visibility, and employee voice have helped disseminate silos and fuel more equitable conversations. Employees are speaking up, asking for what they need, and stepping into greater confidence. And this is really good. However, a new dilemma has quietly emerged. What happens when empowerment crosses the line into entitlement? When advocacy crosses the line into arrogance? This week, we will explore the fine line between healthy self-advocacy and toxic professional behavior. We will uncover 10 reasons why empowerment, when distorted, can evolve into arrogance or dysfunction, and how individuals and organizations can recalibrate towards grounded leadership and mutual respect. Number 1. When we mistake confidence for competence. Confidence is crucial, but confidence unmoored from skill can lead to overestimation. A 2019 study from Harvard Business Review found that people who rated their own leadership skills the highest were not necessarily rated highly by peers or their direct reports. For example, a junior analyst in a startup who is emboldened by empowerment workshops begins to demand projects to lead roles despite the consistent feedback about missed deadlines by this junior analyst. You know what the result would be? Of course, a frustrated colleague and damaged team trust, because true empowerment includes an honest audit of skills, and this junior analyst has been told that he has missed deadlines, so he doesn't know how to manage his time and resources effectively. But leveraging on empowerment workshops, making him to demand roles that he's not competent for, will just sabotage the company. Self-advocacy should be paired with self-awareness and a growth mindset, not just talk or rhetoric. Number 2 is when we use identity as our immunity. Diversity movements have rightly emphasized identity representation, which is great. However, some professionals begin to wield their identity as a shield against accountability. When a DEI officer, for example, in a global firm, use race or gender to deflect feedback about poor team morale, when the person is challenged and the narrative shifted to bias rather than addressing real concerns, this is using identity as immunity, and it doesn't help the organization or the marketplace to progress. The civil rights movement and the feminist movements that actually started all of these things in the 60s were deeply rooted in equal responsibility, not humility from responsibility. Accountability is the backbone of empowerment, and organizations must separate valid identity-based concerns from poor performance, where allyship includes truth-telling. So it is important that you tell the truth even with your identity, and you focus on improving your performance, receiving feedback, and improving yourself based on the feedback received. The third reason why empowerment can be distorted and what it is that we can do to recalibrate is conflicting advocacy with aggression. Advocacy means standing up, but when that stand becomes combative, accusatory, or dismissive, it poisons collaboration. For example, there's a case of a middle-level manager who begins every meeting with a speech about how underrepresented groups are mistreated in leadership. With this leader is turning strategy discussions into ideological lectures. Assertiveness is great. Assertiveness is not dominance. Assertiveness opens doors. Aggression closes doors. We must therefore encourage feedback, but also emotional regulation, because high-impact professionals speak the truth with grace. Number 4 is when you are expecting rewards without results. Entitlement culture thrives on the expectation of praise or promotion without contribution. Empowerment becomes transactional in this case, because somebody will say, yes, I showed up, and now where's my reward? That you showed up is not enough for you to be rewarded. It is that you delivered. That is what will determine your reward. You can't demand a salary review after 6 months citing your market value when your output ranked lowest on the team. Your market value is not your perception. Your market value is not even the market's perception. For your market value is always about your output, what you delivered within the period of time. According to a 2022 LinkedIn Workforce Confidence Report, 41% of Gen Z professionals expect promotion within the first year, regardless of the role they played and regardless of impact. This is expecting rewards without results. Advocacy should be grounded in results, not just in words. Merit builds the case for any movement that we're pushing, and it is important that we work and expect the reward for our work, not the other way around. Number 5 is when we shift from initiative to entitlement culture. Empowered professionals look for ways to solve problems, but entitled professionals look for ways to exempt from problems. When you refuse to take on a weekend shift because you say, there are boundaries and your boundaries should be respected, you don't pick calls on weekend, even though you agreed to a rotating schedule during your hiring, it doesn't put you on the right track in the organization. Boundaries are healthy, but not when you weaponize boundary to avoid shared responsibility. Because true advocacy includes personal initiative. Leaders and HR must clarify where flexibility ends and when accountability begins. Flexibility is great, but accountability is even greater. I don't expect to be celebrated for not contributing. I don't expect to be rewarded for not contributing. Number 6 is confusing personal truth with universal truth. Empowerment movement emphasizes owning your story. However, some professionals confuse their feelings with fact, insisting that their perspective overrides all others. I once mediated in an issue where an employee insists a manager is unsafe because the manager offered critical feedback. Rather than process the feedback, this team member elevated it to a psychological threat. You see, while your emotional experience can be valid, they are not always universally true. Empowerment requires emotional maturity. Leaders must therefore validate experience without invalidating reality. So while your experience may be valid, the reality and the context of your experience based on what is expected from you from the organization may not be valid. So it is important that you don't confuse your personal truth with a universal truth, which is what the organization is running on. Number 7 is when you overplay the I am undervalued card. Some people in the marketplace frequently assert that they are undervalued, and they use it as a leverage rather than a time of reflection. An employee in the financial services sector, for example, bypasses their manager and emails the executives claiming discrimination because they were passed over for a role they were not qualified for. Now, it is important to know that anything you are doing, any thoughts you are having, about growth and sustainability in the marketplace must be deeply rooted in empowerment and earning value, not demanding it without proof. If you want to place a demand, you should have more than sufficient proof about your contribution that was overlooked, not just because you were present there or because you feel that it should be given to you. It should be what you demand. Now, you don't just demand it for the sake of demand or for the sake of just talking. You demand it because you deserve it. And you don't deserve it because you were told that you deserve it. You deserve it because you have worked for it and you have made the contribution for you to deserve it. Number 8 is weaponizing safe spaces. You see, safe spaces were created to foster honest expression. But in some organizations, they've become zones where critique is a taboo and victimhood is celebrated. A senior team leader shares a strategic concern in a DEI meeting, for example, and then it was later reported for disrupting emotional safety, that the person disrupted emotional safety. We must remember that psychological safety is not emotional insulation. It is about open, courageous conversations. We must build safety with standards. Empowered teams know the difference between discomfort and disrespect, and it's important that you don't weaponize safe spaces to absolve yourself of responsibility. Number 9, equating empowerment with entitlement to special treatment. Empowered employees seek opportunities, but entitled ones expect exceptions. When you insist on skipping training modules other people have completed, saying that, I already know this, or, I am too busy, then you are equating empowerment with entitlement to special treatment. When exceptions are granted without merit, resentment will fetter on the team. Your team culture will erode. Fairness will not be there again. But fairness is what fuels trust on your team and in your organization. And empowerment really means that you are earning your badge, not that you are assuming that you have it. So it is important that you sit down, you double down, and ensure that you are not just seeking entitlement. And finally, number 10, demanding inclusion and resisting integration. There are some advocates for inclusion who resist participation in shared culture. They resist participation in shared feedback systems or even accountability. There was a case where a new department is launched to promote inclusive leadership, but that department refuses to collaborate with HR, claiming autonomy from legacy processes. Now, how can you be promoting inclusion and by yourself you don't want to integrate in the system? Because true movements blend protest with partnerships. Integration, not isolation, drives change. If you really truly want things to improve, you have to be part of the nucleus that is making it happen. You don't isolate yourself, because inclusion means you are contributing, not just that you are being counted. It's a two-way engagement, not one-way demand. And it's important that we know this, that if you are seeking inclusion, then you have to promote integration as well. So empowerment is one of the most transformative forces in any organization. But without boundaries, context, or accountability, it can become entitlement, and it will damage the very credibility that you have aimed to build. Leaders must be brave enough to distinguish healthy advocacy from harmful ego. We must all remember, empowerment is not about louder voices. It is about stronger character. It is about your character. It is said that when money is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. But when character is lost, everything is lost. So it's not about what we say or what we do when it is convenient. It is what we do even when it's not convenient. It's what we do consistently. And by realigning advocacy with humility, ownership, and contribution, we can build a culture that is inclusive, that is high performing and deeply human, to ensure that you build a culture of peak performance in your organization, where empowerment is not becoming entitlement and advocacy is not leading to arrogance. And if you want a leadership training on recalibrating empowerment in your team, so it's not leading your people into entitlement mentality, and ensuring that you put advocacy in the proper place and it's not leading to arrogance on your team, you need help in maybe diagnosing entitlement trends inside your organization, you can contact us today on +2347 02666 8008. Or reach out to us on hello@abiolachamp.com. Let us create workplaces where confidence meets competence and where advocacy never forgets its roots in character.
Thank you for listening to Performance Insights with Dr. Abiola Salami, the world-class performance strategist. This is a platform curated to build models of excellence in the African marketplace. You can follow Dr. Abiola Salami at Abiola Champ on all social media platforms, or send an email to the team on hello@abiolachamp.com. For more inquiries, call 0702 666 8008.